Hi, Michelle here with Colorado Model Railroad Museum for STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom. And this month is Geology. I hope you've really enjoyed what we've done so far. We started out learning the rock cycle. Then we went to the Poudre Learning Center and Amy taught us about the river and how erosion happens with water, which I thought was really cool, and the whole Poudre Learning Center canyon that was created during the 2013 flood. Very interesting. And then Ambrette talked to us about sediments, and she talked to us about how fossils are stuck in the sediments and in sedimentary rock. And I hope that you enjoyed the activity of digging through those layers and finding your own fossil. And if you remember, you found a shark's tooth. This is a very large shark's tooth example, but I thought it was fun to learn about that there's a place here in Greeley called Shark's Tooth, and it actually had a ski area, and it was named for all the shark's teeth that were found on that hill. And we learned that that's because we used to be under an ocean here, and there were sea animals. We learned that in paleontology. So today we're going to learn something else. And this is kind of one of my favorite things because I like gemology as well as geology. So geology is the study of rocks. Gemology focuses on minerals and what happens there, and that's how we get gemstones. So today we're going to take a look at the difference between minerals and rocks and how they relate to each other. So what is a mineral? Minerals occur in nature, and they're usually, I'm going to pull this one out. This one's called satin spar, and it's very cubed. Do you see that? Minerals usually have a very orderly structure. This one is quartz. This one's really common, especially in Colorado. And if you've ever been to the Royal Gorge Bridge, all of their walls are made out of quartz because it was so common in the ground. They used it like stone. Really pretty. Here's one called Selenite, and you can see it has very small crystals. Here's a common one in Colorado called Fluorite, and this one has color to it. You can see it's green, and so Fluorite usually has a green or purple tone, and it's also a gem, and sometimes they're almost clear, like you could see through them. Like a diamond, that's a gemstone made from a mineral. So we have some others here in this box. Feldspar is a very common one, also in Colorado. Kind of looks like fool's gold, a little bit. So those are some different minerals that we have to look at. Now, a rock is made up of multiple minerals. It can be just one, but typically it's more than one. Remember our sedimentary rock? Can you see the sparkles in it when I move it? That's because there's minerals in it, just like those. There's little bits of them in there. This sedimentary rock really had a lot in it. Remember, we could see the pyrite really, really glowing in there. Really, really sparkly inside this rock. So those are minerals which come together to make a rock. And you can also have fossils the same way, just like the rock we had with all the fossils in it. Remember this one with the seashell right there and then the bits of shell all around it? So you can have minerals, you can have shells, all sorts of things to come together to make a rock. But sometimes the same things that happen to take a mineral and make it into a rock, sometimes water comes into effect and does some fun things with these. So imagine that there's lava flowing and there's an air bubble in it. And then that igneous rock, remember our igneous rock? The really dense stuff that flows? Imagine if there's a water bubble in there, or like an air bubble, and water gets in there. And water deposits minerals. Minerals are found in very fine particles inside the water. And so over time, you end up with a rock that has some minerals inside it called a geode. There's other things like that too, and I actually have some examples of this here. I'm going to move these over. This and this, if you can believe it, used to be wood. But where the particles went away and water came through and minerals deposited, they became rock. It's called petrified wood. Can you see the green? Where this used to be a tree, does that look like there would be bark? But now it's rock, and that has to do with minerals becoming rock, taking the place of an organic or air substance, either an air pocket or an organic substance, and that void where those things dissolve away, minerals come in. So just kind of a fun little thing that we happen to have. So we're going to talk about geodes. And remember I said that there's like a hollow space inside a rock, and as the water seeps through it, it leaves the minerals, which are usually these, and it's mostly quartz, like this one. And over time, you end up with kind of a round rock. I have a couple here, like the ones you have in your kit. And I also have one that I found with my dad when I was a little girl. Can you see this? Look at this side. Does that look like a rock? That just looks like a rock, doesn't it? Kind of nondescript, but because it's rounded, my dad thought there might be something pretty inside. So he cut into it here, and then it broke off here, and we can see that there is quartz and amethyst in there. See the purple? Isn't that pretty? This came from Wyoming, a little bit north of Cheyenne, and I've had this my whole life. So a natural found geode. Now, these that you have here come from South America, and they're naturally formed there, and we're gonna take a look inside it. So you need to have your safety glasses because we're gonna use a hammer, and we don't want anything to get into our eyes. And you're gonna take that geode that's in your kit and probably ask your parent where they want you to do this, and get your parent to help you, because you don't just want to do this on a table in your house. Now I have 3 samples here, and I can tell you this one's really heavy, medium heavy, and this one weighs nothing. It's super light. So I wonder what's going to happen to these when we break them up. Now I'm working on a plastic table, so it's going to be probably a little loud. So you're going to take your hammer and try to crack your rock right down the center if you can. Let's see if I can get it done. It may not work on this table. We may end up cutting and going outside. Because I think we're going to need a hard surface. Let's try the medium one, and we'll go outside and do that one in a minute. My table's just bouncing. I think we're going to have to go outside, so I'll see you in just a minute. There we go. Isn't that pretty? So that was the heaviest one. Now let's do the medium one. Well, that's the light one. Let's do the medium one. Okay. He's harder to crack. Oh my gosh, there we go. Also a quartz. Pretty dense. Oh my gosh, there we go. Also a quartz. Pretty dense. Here's the pieces of that one. Okay, now let's do this really lightweight one and see what happens to him. Ready? Oh, he broke right away. Look, he was hollow. See the difference? We can go in and talk about that. Okay, we had to go outside to use a concrete surface to hit them with. So I did the hardest, biggest, heaviest one first, and it came out like this. And look at all that beautiful quartz in there. But it's very solid. I could probably try to jigsaw this guy back together and get him pretty close to what he looked like. See? Look at that. I can almost put him back together as a puzzle. So he was very dense. That's why he was heavier, because there was no hollow space. It was 100% crystal pretty much. There was one little hollow space right there and a little hollow space right there. But that crystal formed inside there and just that little rock layer on the outside. So then I did the second one. He was a bit smaller and honestly the hardest to crack, but he was super dense. There was definitely no hollow in there at all, which is why it's not as shiny, because he was really, really dense. We could probably put him back together too if we worked hard enough at the puzzle. So another dense one, quartz inside. Remember the one that weighed nothing? I really was wondering why, and I figured it probably would have a hollow cavity in it, and it did. Look at what came out of it. And all these little pieces came out. If you saw in the video, look at all these pieces that were floating in there. And this one, when it was together, it was very, very hollow on the inside. But isn't that pretty? I really like geodes. I think they're really fun. So we hope you enjoy your geode, and hopefully you learned a little bit about geology in our world. And as you're out in nature, you can always try to identify the kind of rocks that you see on the ground. So thank you for joining us for STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom, and we're glad you came. Bye.